Only last week, I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick.
What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Francis Ngannou. Get this, Francis Ngannou claims that he was tricked ahead of the Anthony Joshua fight as a new excuse for KO is given. Wow, Francis has once again claimed and talked about his fight with Anthony Joshua. He claimed that he was tricked ahead of his crushing knockout defeat. And this is what he had to say. He said, speaking to Ariel, okay, on the MMA Hour, all right, he said, listen, I think we both fought at 3 a.m. It's not like I fought at 3 a.m. and he fought at like midnight or something. We both fought at 3 a.m. The 37-year-old added, what I think something that's happened is that they get me to the arena very early. Like my pickup time was 10:30 to go to the arena. He said, and then when we got to the arena, they tell us that we are scheduled around 1:45 a.m., right? Okay. He said they came to the locker room around 1 and Joshua was just arriving around 1, he said. I'm like, okay, we are fighting at the same time. How come I have a pickup time? We received a schedule, an email, and then for some reason, I was there at least 1 hour before, but for the fight, at least 2 hours beforehand. They do this kind of trick to get you tired. I was like, cool. I was like, bro, it's okay. I didn't know how important that was until the fight day that I have to get there 2 hours before. Those are the words of Francis Ngannou, and let me counterpunch. So now the issue has brought about the time when he got picked up at 10:30, and then they fought at 3. So that gave him, depending on how close the hotel is to the arena, he probably got there before 11. So it's safe to say he waited at the arena 5 hours. That was his quarrel. Like, hey, they tricked me. They had me coming in way earlier, and AJ didn't get there till 1. Well, I think that's all a part of the A side versus B side. Like AJ, took his time, or they had a schedule for AJ to get there, and then they had a schedule for Francis to get there. Is there any truth to that? No, I don't think it is. I think that's something they should have known if that was going to be a problem. Really, it's a very trivial excuse to say, well, they picked me up at 10:30, you see, and then we didn't fight till 3 a.m. We both fought at 3 a.m., but then AJ didn't get there till 1 a.m., so he had time to sleep from 10:30, 11:30, probably 12:30. He probably got up about 12 o'clock, and then got prepared to come, to the arena and stuff by 1. So if he showed up at 1 o'clock, that means they probably picked him up maybe 30 minutes to an hour beforehand. Okay, so he's basically complaining about 2 hours. So from 10:30 to 1, so 10:30 to 12:30. That's what he's complaining about. So they came and they dropped him off. Let's see. They dropped him off at 10:30, or they picked him up at 10:30. I can't remember. Let's see. Okay, when they tell us that they are scheduled around 1:45, okay, and my pickup time was at 10:30. So they picked him up at 10:30. Picked him up at 10:30, so he got there maybe between 10:30 and 11. I can't imagine it's across town, you know what I mean? So I think Francis needs to keep in mind, though, that just because he got there at 10:30 didn't mean he had to be warming up. But this is boxing. You don't know what those other fights could have possessed. Those other fights could have been right after each other with knockouts. So they pick you up early because they want to equate the time just in case you have the co-main event, which went 12 rounds, mind you. But who knew it would go 12 rounds when Zhang just destroyed Joe Joyce last year back to back? One in 6 rounds and another one in 3 rounds. Okay, so you don't know that. So you can't say, hey, well, my pickup time was 10:30 and we didn't fight till 3 o'clock. Well, they have no way of knowing that, so you have to be ready, especially when you're going to be receiving $20 million. And if that's the time, you guys should have been asleep a long time before then, getting your rest in through that day. But let's just be real. If that's what he was complaining about, if he's saying that, hey, they came and picked me up a lot earlier than they picked AJ up, okay, well, that means then that who's going to really be asleep at that time of the fight? I know I wouldn't. I would probably been up 4 o'clock that morning waiting. I might have took little naps here and there, but my mind is going to be on battle because I know I got to go across there and do my thing. I gotta get laced up. I got to get gloved up, and I got to come up there and I got to show up. That's what I got to do. And then that, like, knowing that, you have that type of intensity and you have that type of anxiety, that pre-fight anxiety. Yeah, that happens. If you're any athlete and you have you have a task ahead of you, it's a hell of a challenge to go to sleep. So if he felt tired, that meant he must have been up all day that day. So him saying that, hey, we both fought at 3 a.m. and I was tired, that's how they tricked me. I think that's up to his team. If they knew, well, hey, if the pickup's 10:30 and then we're going to be fighting at 3, no, we need to be picked up closer to 12 o'clock than 1:30. But again, they done that simply to know who is ready to go and who is not. Now, you could say, well, hey, well, no, because AJ didn't get there till 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? And he was fine. But nonetheless, it's like, you're complaining about what time you got to the arena at 10:30. You know what I mean? Your team should have pushed that back if that was not a comfortable time to be picked up. You could have went a lot longer, but that's what happens when you don't look at the fine details that may or may not matter. Okay? So him saying, hey, I felt tired, I felt this, well, that means he wouldn't acclimate it to Saudi Arabia time, and he should have been. To me, that is pretty much a similar excuse of what when Deontay Wilder said, oh, I was tired, it was the cryo chamber, no, it was the time frame, it was the flight over, and we couldn't acclimate to that. No, that means you should have left about a week or 4 or 5 days earlier to get over there to adjust to the time that you're going to be fighting. That's what you should have done. And he didn't do that. Obviously, if he's complaining about the time frame or the flight or how I felt because of the flight over, jet lag is a real thing. I know because I fly a lot. And you're going to be tired. You're going to naturally be tired up in the air, down in different longitudes, different time zones. You're going to be tired. Okay? And a flight, and you're just sitting in that flight. It's not, listen, those things happen and you have to be prepared for it. And the only thing that I can say is if that's what he's pulling for or he's reaching for, he's reaching a great deal. Okay? But if it's any legitimacy to that, that meant his team should have been on top of that, and they weren't. He was like, yeah, it's okay. So if it was okay, Francis, why are we having this discussion now? Counterpunch. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Francis Ngannou claiming that he was tricked by Team Anthony Joshua. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.